begin to settle into your space wherever you are sitting, your home, your own sacred space that you inhabit in this moment. Just calling yourself to yourself, calling yourself present. I'm going to call in the directions for us, the 5 directions. Pachamama, Pachamama, Pachamama. Pachamama, Hairi, 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 Pachamama, Aipa, Yankai, Hatu Santa Pachamama, Ham Kui, Ham Kui. Mama Kia, Mama Kia, Mama Kia. Mama Kia, Haini, Haini. Haini, Mama Kia. Mama Kocha. Unu. Munai, Munai, Hatun Sanko Mamakiria, Ham Pui, Ham Pui. Vira Kochu, Vira Kochu, Vira Kocha. Vira Kocha, Haini, 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 Vira Kocha. Great Creator, Vira Kocha. Hatu, Waira, Yuyai, Yuyai, sacred remembering. Thank you for this gathering of beautiful souls who have joined to remember the truth of who we are. Ham Pui, Vira Kocha, Ham Pui. Inti, 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 kaini, kaini, inti taita, inina, the sacred fire. We ignite now the sacred fire of this gathering. May we feel ourselves being warmed by this beautiful fire that we gather around, shoulder to shoulder, hearts open, available. Hatu sanko inti, kam pui. Quichi, 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 quichi. Quichi, Heidi. Quichi, Anima Mundi, Quichi, Punui, Quichi, sacred center, breathing into your sacred center now, your belly full of this beautiful breath that we are gifted with. Naiki Kuyaiki. And I'd like to offer now this chant that comes from actually the Anusara yogic tradition. And after hearing what Kim is going to share with us tonight, this felt like an appropriate way to begin. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. I honor the essence of being, the auspicious one, the luminous teacher within and without. Sachitinanda Murtaye, who assumes the forms of truth, consciousness, and bliss. Nishprapanchaya Shantaya is never absent, full of peace. Niralambaya Tejase, ultimately free and sparkles with a divine luster. Deep breath in. Pause. Feel. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachitinanda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Nirlambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachitinanda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Nirlambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachitinanda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Nirlambaya Tejase. So let's all take a deep breath in. We can offer an Om together to harmonize ourselves. Deep breath in.
Be quiet. Now I'm not on mute. Later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. That was just beautiful. That was wonderful. Perfect. And I love your mesa. I love we got to see your mesa. So if you would, on my screen, in your upper right-hand corner, you can pick speaker view, and that will put the speaker and the teacher in the middle of your screen, because we are recording this. And so our teacher tonight is Kim Hughes, and I had met Kim here and there when I lived in Asheville in a few social gatherings, but we never really knew each other. And she came in to open when Jen was teaching the other week, and we got to know each other much better. And I just saw that she had a lot to offer. And I asked her, she's had quite an extensive spiritual journey. And she's kind of like me. She does a lot of different things. And so I asked her if she would like to come and teach around the sacred fire. And she said that she would. So it's my honor to have Kim Hughes here with us tonight to be our teacher around the fire. So Kim, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Thank you so much, Leah, and thank you, Jen. That was amazing. I really appreciate what you're putting together here, Leah, to help us hold the light in these strange times that really challenge our human selves a lot. I do take issue with the word teacher because I think I don't know anything more than anybody else knows about what their path should be. So I don't teach a certain tradition. Um, I have, like you, dipped into a lot of traditions. There's an author named Mirabai Starr who wrote a great book called Wild Mercy, and she describes herself as promiscuously in love with the divine mysticism in many traditions. And I've taken that definition on too because I don't seem to be able to pick just one. So the thing that I want to do is talk a little bit about what I do and tell some stories and hear some stories from you guys. That's the most fun part for me. And then if we have time, go on a little drum journey. So the first thing I wanted to mention tonight was this huge time that you referred to as the Pachacuti. I'm just going to check in. Are y'all hearing me all right? Okay, thank you. I kept thinking and hearing the word apocalypse, and I looked it up, and it's from the Greek, and all it means is uncover. The Greek apo is un or off, and cover is the second part of the word, the kalyptine in Greek. So we're in a time of uncovering. And I read a little bit up on the etymology of it, and one source I read said that nobody was using it to mean the end of the world until the 1800s. So that's kind of a meaning that has been put on the word. But it does seem like we are in a time of uncovering. And everything is being uncovered. We're seeing so much ugly, so much stuff that's been there, but we either have hidden it from ourselves or it's been hidden. And what is also being uncovered is the most beautiful stuff, like, in my opinion, who we really are. Everyone on this call probably knows and has directly felt at one time or another that each of us is sacred and that all life is absolutely sacred, whether or not we're treated that way or we see others being treated that way. And it's no secret to anybody on this call that as a species, this human divine species that we are, we're going through an awakening out of the current consensus reality into the bigger, truer picture. So as we're going through some of the darkest times imaginable, there's also more light, I think, than has ever been available. And to me, it's my job to help individuals and groups access and sustain their own highest light and guidance during this time. So my business is called Sacred Self-Living. I'll talk a little more about that in a minute, but I want to read some writings from one of my favorite writers. He's a Facebook friend and writer named Fred Lamott. He says, Hebrews 12:27 speaks of removing the things which can be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. We now enter the times of the shaking. We begin to see that our personality can be shaken, our emotions, our minds, our bodies can be shaken. Thrown back into that which is never shaken, we can taste the eternal radiance of the self. Om Namah Shivaya, Jen. Find that in you which cannot be shaken. This is the crisis and the opportunity of our time. The crisis is an invitation to distinguish the changing from the unchanging. In the silent core of your heart, discover the unshakable. Discover the pure consciousness of the self in whom we are one. one human family, one divine sun with 8 billion human rays. This is not a belief, but a direct experience, attained not by philosophy or science, but by tapping the original seed of your heart in the stillness. Sometimes I am afraid, I am uncertain, but I am. For just a moment, let me place no noun, no adjective after that verb. Here is what the stars are singing about. Here is what the silence of boundless night is breathing. I am. Here is courage. Here is the heart. That's Fred Lamott. So my business is called Sacred Self Living. I started it in 1995 and that name came to me. And what I mean by sacred self, I chose that term so as not to predetermine for anyone else what they wanted to call what they believed in or what they called spirit or their soul. It's a neutral term, as neutral as I could find. You might call it God or Wakantanka or Divine Mother or Great Spirit. I just have felt like there's been way too much deciding for other people what they should believe and what they should call what they believe, and I chose to step out of that. I do not want to be part of that. I know that each person has a very unique spiritual path that is to be highly respected, honored, and nurtured. So that's where the name Sacred Self came from. But I do know that whatever we call it, it's important for those of us that choose to hold the light strongly during this time, to make our own sacred self into our boss, into the main priority, and to listen to its guidance. In a way, the path of one's unique sacred self is the path of the mystic. Now, I think probably most of you on the call are already mystics in your own way. And some of you are teachers or healers or have students. And many people that do study indigenous spirituality, which I have studied among the things I've looked at, are drawn to mysticism, to the direct experience, as opposed to what's passed down institutionally or dogmatically. I also think there's an edge here to be a little, to put some care and some thought into, because those of us that do have very strong direct experience, and we have students or clients, we may tend to, because things are so real to us, define our students' spiritual journey in the same way we define our own, because our definitions feel so real to us. I have to say, almost every teacher or guide that I've worked with, I've eventually moved away from, not broken from, but stepped away from, not because they were bad, but because I was being led by my sacred self in a different eddy in the stream, or a different path. And I feel like if we as guides put care into allowing both our and our clients' or students' practices to change or evolve, that's something we have to do, and that is integrity, because reality is not fixed, and the mind wants to grasp onto something and keep it. But if we keep listening, we will discover new perceptions of reality and new guidance from our sacred selves, and that's the same for our clients. So we can't indulge in having disciples. And I've been very aware, I've been a therapist for 40 years this year, and sort of spiritual counselor. And I've been aware that really many of us are recovering from the violence and the trauma of having ourselves and our spirits either not seen at all or reflected inaccurately by the dominant culture or by religion. So that's why I'm so all about nurturing, helping each person nurture their own specific path. And if they wander around to different traditions, that's what they do. So this brings me to the concept of mirroring. And I originally trained as a psychologist, and I studied a lot about learning theory and mirroring. And I realized how important mirroring is to learning and how much we need reflections of who we are to establish our identity, our spiritual and personality identity. So my story about this is when I was about 3, I was out in the back garden of my parents' house, and I saw and experienced some kind of fairies or earth divas. And I was so like pumped up with energy, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I ran in and I tried to tell my mother about it, and she was just like, psh. And I remember that feeling of, oh, it might not be real if they don't reflect it. I mean, I couldn't have said it in those words, but looking back, I deflated my own perception of reality because the people around me could not understand that there was energy beyond the body, that there is real energy in the ineffable. So as a mystic or a person that follows your sacred self journey, finding your own mirrors for how you symbolize reality and helping your clients, if you have clients, to find their own mirrors is crucial. Of course, one great way to do that is going on pilgrimages to sacred sites. A couple of years ago, I went on a trip to the French sites, the holy sites of Mary Magdalene. And I went on purpose, precisely because I needed to see the mirrors of the feminine spiritual authority that she gave me. So now here comes the fun part. First of all, though, are there any questions? Was I clear on that, or does anyone have a question? Y'all are way beyond me, I know. So I like to share with people and hear from other people their stories about times when they just felt very connected to their sacred self, whatever they called it. And I'll start with one, and then I'm going to open the path. Recently, in actually one of Peggy's online offerings, I heard a speaker, a local Jungian therapist named Tyria Ward, and she said, "This is the time to tell our deepest stories." And I agree. If we're not going to do it during a Pachacuti, when are we going to do it? So, one of the stories that I have about a time when I just completely felt that ineffable self was, I am also a professional singer, and I was in my 20s, and for the first time I was hired to sing with a full orchestra and a whole chorus of professional singers in a big stage, and I was hired to sing an oratorio, which is a religious piece with Christ at the center, and Christ happens to be one of my mystic connections in a non-institutional way. And so I was being buoyed by the music and listening to the other singers, and I felt that I knew that my solo was coming up. And I got up there and I could hear everybody around me, and everything was vibrating at the same rate. And my voice went up for the end of the song. And suddenly, I was not singing anymore. I was being sung. I just became light and sound. And there was no doubt in my mind that we are much more than the body, whether our dominant culture reflects that or not. So it was just ecstasy to let go of the human and just be those vibrations. Now, I would love to hear some stories from you about times when you felt your highest being. I mean, that's always there, but we don't always plug into the awareness of it. Does anybody have a story they want to share?
And y'all feel free to unmute yourself if you want to step forward and share a story.
Okay, I have a story.
Go, Daz.
So I've shared this a few times recently. I love this story. So it's kind of like what makes me love fitness so much. And just really taking care of the body and being healthy. But there's this time when I remember I had gotten really good at running, and I was actually going uphill, and I was just elated. I felt like I was flying. I didn't need to breathe anymore. I was going uphill, and I could just, I didn't have to breathe. I didn't have to, and I was just flying. And it was just this freedom of this intelligent machine that we can access by taking care of it. So it was really beautiful. It was a really elated experience for running.
Wow. And did you feel a spiritual part, or was it all located in the body, or was it a spiritual sensation in the body?
It is, definitely a spiritual sensation, almost like I'm connected to the sun and the stars at the same time as the earth. And it's just this unison of pure health. It feels good.
Wow. Thank you, Des.
It's interesting how culturally we learn to perceive different frequencies of energy. And I think that a lot of the people that get into fitness learn to see the body as this protein machine, basically, right?
The body as what? I missed
It's
something.
kind of like a protein machine, right? Like a machine that you move with levers and pulleys. And by bringing intention, and by bringing the intention of the breath and awareness to the energy around you, you can not just move the body, but train the energy field around you to become more geometric and stronger. And so that is like a true expansion of your field that is way beyond the body. I mean, it's like many feet beyond the body,
So
and
you're
so
working.
I think that what Desiree was experiencing, I think, was probably tapping into that larger field.
Right.
As the awareness expands, you're no longer just the body, but you're part of this larger continuum. And I believe that that's where our sense of empowerment comes from. I think that empowerment comes from alignment. It's really what the mechanism of being in your power is, in my opinion, where we really do align with the earth. We align all our centers with the earth, with the sun, and with the unseen energies. And
Doesn't that sound
cool.
fun?
It's awesome.
Whether it's singing or running or working out or meditating.
Yeah.
I have a client who it's I sort of require that my clients meditate every day, most of the time, and she finds her highest ecstasy in going back to bed right after she gets up in the morning, going right back to bed, and she calls it meditation.
That's awesome.
So anybody can find this however they want to find it. Thank you, guys. I love seeing you. I want to just hug you up.
I know.
We were in a class together some amount of moons ago. I would love to hear anybody else's memory of feeling that alignment and their own sacredness, if you want to share.
I have a story.
Carol, go baby.
It reminded me of the ecstasy of singing, because when I was very little, I would feel that every night. And it was like there were the angels, and I was just going to sing to the angels. And it was, I didn't know any boundaries. I was only like 5 or 6. And so the words weren't really there, but I was singing to the angels, and I felt it so strongly. And then, of course, you heard the, "Can't you go to sleep now?" Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you felt that hookup.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That felt like the normal to me. And everything else was an intrusion at that point, But
Right.
very much so.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your ecstasy story in that vein.
Oh, yeah. I think that kind of is normal from the planet most of us came from. It's not sort of the normal here, but that's why I want us to bring those forth and keep them in the frontal lobes. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share something, if I may.
Oh, Shelley, yes.
First, I want to say, I don't think I'm ahead of you. I think I'm right there with you. You know,
Okay.
I'm very grateful to you for turning me on to Mirabai.
Uh-huh.
And like you, I've just recently been described by a former teacher of mine in a meditation school as an eclectic.
Okay. Yeah.
I said, I think you're right. And he said, I really like that about you. And I said, I'm really glad because I can't change it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But also what you said about the visiting of the sacred site. So that started happening to me. And it would either be the Southwest or England. And it would happen that when I was there, strange things have happened, nothing you would have expected. And that's the way it is, you know, it can't be expected. So I remember one time in Sedona, if you're familiar with Cathedral Rock, and
Yes.
people were hiking all the way up, and I was stopped on a mesa kind of area. And I just got drawn to walk around the side. And the next thing I knew, I was chanting Native American. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was there and it was powerful, and I knew I was supposed to do it. And the same thing happened to me when I was standing on the west coast of Wales and I was looking at Bardsey Island, and I was right on the edge there and nobody was around. Well, this is what happens. Nobody is around. You know, you can't do that when there's a crowd of people. At least that I don't. And boom, I'm like standing there and suddenly I'm doing this invocation to the 4 elements. And I mean, really powerful stuff that I could never remember either.
Uh-huh.
But like flying, like you said, out of your body flying, that's what it feels like when you're doing that. It's not you. Like you said, you're being sung. It's not, you're not it's a phenomenal thing. And it's something that makes me, I'm glad you're asking us to tell our stories, because it's something that reminds me that there's more to this.
Yes.
And what we're experiencing now, and that is what is real. That is what is real. And what you said, I don't know your name, the man in the box with Alex.
Alex.
Oh, he's Alex.
He's Alex. She's Des.
Okay, Des. Okay. The energy field around, instead of being just the body, that's something that I've just been recently exploring with Joe Dispenza.
Ah.
Fascinating to, you know, everything comes together as I'm listening to people. It all comes together. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also feel like since some of the old structures are falling now, both inside of us and the societal structures, we need to keep our eye on the ball of what's real. And the first place to start with that is with us, in my opinion, or at least that's what I am told for me. And I think some might apply to others too. Anybody else got a story? I love these the best. I think I'm going to someday publish a miracle newsletter of everybody's stories about when they are completely aligned.
I have one, Kim.
Yes, Sandy.
Your meditation made me think about it, and I teach a kind of yogic meditation called Yoga Nidra.
Yes.
And so,
Doesn't that use sound?
Yoga Nidra, no.
Oh, then I'm mixing it up. Go ahead.
It's basically it's a form of meditation that you do laying down, and that's why your meditation made me think of it. It's a guided meditation, and it leads you basically through the brain waves that you would go through as you fall asleep, so that at the height of your deepest sleep is called Turiya, and that's the point at which your intentions that you might set or your dreams might be the deepest. And I find that my greatest alignment comes, certainly not every time, but it's when I'm doing those meditations and I completely lose myself being my physical body. I'm just no longer there, and time can pass and I won't be aware of how long I'm in this yogic sleep, if you want to call it that. And it's a phenomenal feeling, but it's also very mystical because you realize that that's the point at which you have this perfect alignment. And the first time I did it, I thought, you know what, I can do this. This is really great, because it didn't involve sitting still in an odd position or anything like that. I could just lay down and I could relax. And so when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things that I do is yoga nidra in my bed. So that's my meditation.
Wow, do you ever fall asleep?
Oh,
well,
sure.
I guess if you do it in the morning, you don't fall asleep.
When I do it at 9, I do sometimes, and that's perfectly okay, because part of what we try to teach people is your body and your mind are still resting, and you're still getting the advantage of the that connection, that spiritual connection. So yeah, sometimes I do. I've had people snore in my class, and I've had to wake people up
but they're still aligned, you think?
At some point they are, and then I think they progress into that sleep mode.
Into a different brain
they
state.
reach a point at which they are aligned, and then they fall asleep. So yes, I do believe that.
Okay.
Where do you teach it, Sandy?
It's a place called Village Yoga. I live in the Outer Banks.
Oh, okay.
And we aren't open right now, so I've been doing my classes on Zoom, which is interesting because I miss it because I'm not there to watch the people I'm doing it for, that I'm leading it through the meditation, and I had gotten very used to seeing how people are breathing or what's going on in the class. So it's a little bit different, but it works.
Yeah, a friend of mine was a Swami from Australia from the Bahar School of Yoga, and she did led Yoga Nidra a lot. And there's a book with Yoga Nidra practices in the back of it too that's from the yoga school. Well, before you leave, you should tell us, or in the chat or something, when we could do your class on Zoom.
I'd love that.
Actually, the class is restricted to the people that are members of the studio.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
I would be happy sometime to. The other thing that I can tell you is there is a Facebook page for AMRIT. It's AMRIT Institute. And there are almost daily new ones that are posted.
Okay, I would like to keep a focus on other people's experiences, but I appreciate knowing about that. The Yoga Nidra and the Amrit, if anyone wants to go further into that. Yeah, but thank you so much. Meditation, yes. Anyone else?
I'll share one.
Oh, go Peggy.
So, some of you know that the first week in June, I produced a summit called Mother Earth's Sacred Sites: Portals to Spiritual Awakening, and Kim was one of my speakers. And it was just huge. I mean, maybe the largest thing I've ever done. I had more than 2,000 people register for it, and it was phenomenal. But the background to this is that 3 years ago, I was very clearly guided to build this earth grid, and I listened to those voices, and I didn't know what it meant to build an earth grid, but I just kind of, followed my nose through it. And so I ended up with this kind of like just a tray that's like I don't know, 10 by 14 size or something like that. I put a layer of sand in it, and I was guided to put various stones and crystals in it. And over time, it would speak to me and say, okay, it's time to move us around. And some of those would go out and others would come in. And I've been doing this for 3 years. And then when I didn't ever connect I knew that it was doing some significant work with the earth energies. And I knew that I needed to keep on doing this and pay attention to this. And I started the plans on the summit last November. And the grid typically would get changed about every 2 months. And I noticed just like 2 weeks ago after the summit was over, that grid had not been changed since last November, since before I went to Egypt, since, and I'm saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so I sat down with the grid and put my hands on the edge of it. And what I got from that is that summit that put this energy out into thousands of people around the world, because the purpose of the summit was to help people find their path to the sacred. And the earth grid was the beginning of that summit. And I had no idea. I had no idea where I was going with this grid, but that I needed to do it, and I needed to, to feed it, to pay attention to it, to move the stones when the stones needed to be moved, and remove some and add new ones. And I did this, regularly. And it was, to me, the real message besides the energy that's gone out into so many people connected with this, but the lesson back to me is to remember to hear those messages, no matter how subtle or how, maybe even insignificant they seem to be. When you get that clear message to do something, to follow through, whether you know all the reasons, that's the logical mind saying, oh, why am I doing this? What's this about? But to let go of the need for an explanation and just follow that path. When you know it's earth connected, when you know that there's something else out there, and I knew that it was far more than I could understand about what this grid was doing. But to come to that realization just like about a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago, it was just, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And so I'm so grateful that the message came and that I was able to hear it and follow through regardless of whether I knew why it was happening or not.
So that was your sacred self telling you to do that.
Absolutely.
And you did not let your ego or personality get in the way. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, because I could have said, this is stupid. Why am I doing these rocks?
Right, I have to clean the house or something.
How could this possibly have any connection to the earth? These are, I could have gone through all sorts of arguments like that, but it's like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't question it. I just said, okay, clearly I'm being guided to do this and I just need to do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you did. I had a blast. I think other people did too, but it was great for
me
me.
too. It was really incredible.
And for those who don't know, Peggy leads sacred trips to sacred sites. And so when it's the right time, keep in touch with Mother Earth Sacred Sites.
Yes.
You might want to put it in the chat in case
Okay.
people want. I long to travel with you someday. Does anybody else have any experience they're wanting to share? I love these.
I have a short one.
Yes, Pam.
This was a while ago. I don't remember how long, probably 20 years or something. I was up at Linville Falls, which is just
Yes.
so gorgeous. And I was sitting on this huge boulder across from the falls and just enjoying taking it all in and trying to tune into the energy of the water and the plants and the earth, and decided to do a short meditation. And as I was doing the meditation, I started hearing this voice in my head that was trying to communicate. And I was like, okay, who am I talking with? And it was the boulder that I was sitting on. And it was absolutely amazing. It got to a point where I happened to have a notebook with me, and I started recording, because I would ask a question and I would get this incredibly long, amazing answer.
Wow.
And so I felt like I was getting a tutorial from a rock.
And what was the emotional content? Not to interrupt.
It was just, rocks are really old.
Right.
Right? And they're so solid. So the energy moves very slowly, kind of. You know what I mean? There's a heaviness there. But the wisdom was amazing. So I just felt incredible joy to be invited into this conversation. And the willingness and openness of the boulder to engage with me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so even after all that time, I still have this memory. I don't remember everything I was shared with me. I have the notebook somewhere. But just to know that you can connect with nature on that deep of a level, that we're, we are all connected, but we're also connected with all of the elements of the earth, and they're willing to share with us.
Yes.
So
thank you for bringing that up, Pam. I wanted to share a brief story. I live alone and have been missing some physical contact, and I don't have pets, and sometimes I grab my neighbor's pets and I get some contact. But I have been going out by this little river, and I've begun a relationship with a tree. And I was looking at the water and playing with some rocks and stuff, and I could feel it calling me. It was behind me. And it's like, get over here. And I'm like, who's this? And it said, lean against me. And I felt like this draining out of whatever kind of human physiology anxiety happens when you don't have much contact with other beings. And it just like kind of held me, even to the degree of like, I have a really itchy part on one of my shoulder blades, one of my angel wings, and it had a little piece of bark that just hit that spot and scratched it for me. So now I'm in a primary relationship with a tree.
Yay. Kim, me too.
You too?
It's at the bird sanctuary. It asked me to bring it things.
Right. I'm going to have to take some gifts because it gave me so much.
Yeah, and this time it asked for lots of water, so I brought it water. It was amazing to hear it. So you're not alone.
Excellent.
You know, Kim, I read an article recently, and I can't remember the country. I don't know if it was Sweden. I think it was Norway. But it was an article actually recommending people to do exactly that, to go to the woods and hug trees. And,
Well, it yelled at me.
to help with the pandemic and isolation and all that. It was cool.
Oh, well, I also went in that same area and I met another tree that was half built, half knocked over. And part of it was alive and part of it was dead. And I was talking to it, or it was talking to me, and it was like in the first couple of weeks of being in quarantine or locked down or whatever we're calling this. And it was trying to tell me that things change. And it said, pivot. Life goes on.
I like that.
Yeah, it was just like, don't get all totally upset because you didn't expect this. I didn't expect this either, but look, I'm still living and there's mushrooms. You can have some, you know. So I guess me and trees. Does anyone else have something that wants to come out?
I do.
Yes, Mary.
I was about 12.
Oh, there's Mary.
Hot summer night. And the windows were down in my bedroom, and I had these real gauzy white curtains, and they were blowing, and woke me up about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was like my room was filled with light, and I was drawn to the window, and I looked out, and there was it looked like shadow, or it's hard to describe because it was like a silhouette of an Amish buggy and an Amish family. But I was a little Southern Baptist girl. I had no concept of what that was. So I only had the words to describe it much, much later.
Uh-huh.
And I just heard this, and there was light all around that, and light filling my room. And I just got this sense that I was being spoken to, and what I heard was, to each his own. It's all right. And I didn't know what it meant, but I felt this incredible joy and lightness and just connection with all that is.
Wow.
And I probably didn't go to sleep for a couple more hours. It was just, I was in absolute awe. Well, of course, the next day I got up and tried to tell my mother about it, and just like your experience with your mother. Yeah. And then I went but I had this sense of lightness, that incredible lightness of being, I guess is
yeah.
what I described. The light and the joy stayed with me for quite some time. And I remember going to a swimming party for my Sunday school class and trying to tell somebody about it and just giving up. It was like I could say what I was told, but that was so out of the realm of the belief system that they were trying to indoctrinate me with, that I just decided it was mine to hold on to and to let them be who they were, to each his own. And so, but then, as I have grown, I kept it with me for quite some time, but over time it kind of, it kind of went away because I didn't know what to do with it. But as I have evolved and gone through many experiences on my journey, I think about the fact that coming to being an interfaith minister is sort of like the culmination of that message. And you were talking about, I think you were someone was talking about seeing the beauty in others and mirroring it to them. Mm-hmm. And so my ministry is called Soul Friend Ministries, but I wanted it to be Anamkara because it's based in Celtic spirituality, but there are a lot of Anamkara ministries on the internet.
Right. And books.
Yes, and I had a seminary classmate who said, well, what does it mean? I said, it means soul friend. And she said, well, why don't you just call it that? But part of it is, for me, the Anamkara, the soul friend, is the one who sees the beauty and the wholeness in the person and mirrors that back to them and helps them themselves. So as I'm talking about this, it seems like it's just a natural progression of that.
Right, and that takes me back to the importance of mirroring, that we also have the responsibility to mirror for ourselves what feels important to us, what reflects our own beauty and our own spirituality. And sometimes those things may change, but that we do look for mirrors outside of us, and we look for like-mindeds who share some of the same excitements and ecstasies that we do, triggered by some of the same symbols. But ultimately, the dominant reality will probably not in our lifetimes be what we long for as far as consistent reflection of our sacredness. So really, it's our job to pump that up in ourselves, to remember those experiences, maybe to surround ourselves with symbols, to find a way to keep our brains in that spot, in those spots that take us to the knowing of our own sacredness.
Ellen.
Hi, Heather.
I want to share just a couple quick things. I don't want to go too long, or I don't know what the timeline is right now, but a couple things. When I spent time at Mount Shasta years ago, I remember I was staying in a motel just a little ways away after I'd been there, and I couldn't sleep. Like, I was awake most all the night, and I just could feel the energy pulling me, and the energy from Mount Shasta. And, oh, what a sweet dog. And so, yeah, it was just a really, really strong energy, and I was awake like half the night and then got up and meditated near it in the morning. But there's a place I used to go to called Song in the Morning Ranch. It's a Yogananda retreat center that I used to go to when I lived in Michigan. I had a lot of different experiences there and in different places, but and also when I was in England. But I just wanted to share two quick experiences that I had there that were so tuned into spirit. It was amazing. I went walking in the woods, and it was like way, way out in this part of the woods, in this path that I'd never been on before. And I was just by myself. And then I realized I had absolutely no idea where I was or how to get back. And so then I just kind of called out to the trees and goddess or God, whatever, at that moment, and said, how the heck am I supposed to get back? Well, I need some help here. And I was like, I need some help. How am I supposed to get back? And then all of a sudden I started hearing this humming. And I thought, oh, what's that? And it hadn't been there before I asked for help. And then I heard, and I was like, okay, there's the humming. And then I followed the humming. And then I got through the woods, and then I got on the trail, and I kept listening for it. And then I got back, and there's these geodesic domes and these buildings. And then I got back to where everything was. And then I looked around, and then I didn't hear it anymore. And
wow.
So it got me back, and I've always been thankful for that little that guidance. And then one other time I went up there by myself. That was amazing. And then one other time I went up there by myself, and it was actually during a snowstorm, and there was parts of me that said, I really could just turn around and go home. There was cars getting stuck, and I thought, no, I just really want to go. I'm going to go. And it was actually my 40th birthday, and I just went up by myself. And so there was so much snow, though. Everything looked really different, even though I'd been up there a bunch of times, and I actually had driven there by myself, too. So I went all the way down this road, and then all the way back, and then I went all the way back to town, and then I went all the way down the road again. And then I was like, okay, come on, I'm going to have to go back and find a motel if I don't find it. Now, where are you? Come on. Song in the Morning, Golden Lotus Retreat Center. Come on, where are you? And then all of a sudden, I felt like I was on like a tilt-a-whirl and the scrambler at the same time. All of a sudden, my car just started getting pulled, and I slid, and I thought, oh shit, what did I do? I'm just sliding. And then I stopped in the snow and went into the snowbank, and I looked up, and I was right in front of the sign that said Song in the Morning Ranch Retreat Center. And I didn't have any trouble. I wasn't stuck. I just pulled back, and then I got on the road and was right there. So I think,
wow.
you know, definitely answers when you ask.
This is definitely I use the word your spiritual GPS for sacred self. Yours is working, girl.
Yeah, it works a lot. Yeah, I tune in. And daily meditation does definitely help. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. So this brings me to, how do we keep this? How do we keep this to the forefront of our experience? Not every single second, because we are human, and to try to push to be in that aligned space every single second, it may happen, but to push kind of makes it not happen. So, but what are the ways that, I have a couple of things to say about some ways that this alignment, this experience of ourselves as sacred self can be kept as the primary vibration that we're in. My first way is meditation or meditation. One way or another, to spend time with your sacred self, to let it be the boss. There's research from Duke Mindfulness Center that they've done MRIs and studied meditators, and if you meditate for 11 minutes every day, it actually changes the neural pathways. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is, even if it's walking meditation, whatever is right for your unique spirituality, try to commit to do it at least 11 minutes a day. If you do that, it kind of gets to feel like home, and you usually end up doing it longer. Now, the one caveat I have about that is sometimes when we get quiet and sort of out of the left brain chatter, sometimes our feelings and our grief and our rage and our not completely aligned feelings come up. And what the Peruvians call hucha, the heavy feelings. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that, but that we need to accept it with compassion and let it move through us, because if we kind of marry the hucha, it can block our messages from our high self and our experiences with our high self. So I have sometimes what I call primal meditation. I sit down to meditate and I weep for 10 minutes because I've been aware of what's happening in the collective consciousness, like so many of us are. And we are one, and when I'm hooking up with that oneness, I'm going to feel some of that. And that's good, because if I repress it, I'm not hooked up. It's like the pipeline is clouded to hear my messages. So sometimes meditation is one way, crying or being angry or letting your hooch to flow through you is another way. Honoring the symbols that you choose that have power for you right now, like Peggy's surrounded by her paintings from some of her high experiences. We can have altars if we don't already, just to surround ourselves visually. And also to remember that when you're confused about something, when your left brain is going around and you just don't know what to do, to remember to sit down and ask. And then remember to wait long enough to listen. Because it does know, it will get you out of the forest, even of your own confusion. And it's not always right away. I'm always reminded of those, you remember those magic 8 balls?
Yeah,
Some of us are old enough to remember those. They look like big cue balls, and it was the 8 ball, and you'd shake it up and it would say yes or no, or sometimes it would say ask again later. And sometimes that's what I get. It's like, you don't know yet, sit with it. Ask tomorrow. So we got to remember to ask the sacred self. And are there any ways that you guys have, besides those four that I mentioned, the meditating, the letting yourself feel, surrounding yourself with your symbols, and asking and listening when you're confused? What are some of the other ways that you do that? I'd like to hear a couple of you.
I'll offer something simple.
Jen.
Humor.
Yes.
The medicine of laughter. And when I get off track, I'll start looking to find something funny.
Right, right.
And it actually does bring me back. Or, you know, I work in a crisis clinic, and I have this goal. Every person I sit with is, regardless of what's happening, can we find something mutually to laugh at together? Is there, you know, and the connection to self that happens in those moments is pretty alchemical. It's pretty cool.
It is, even if they don't know it.
Yeah.
It's so lightening, isn't it? Thank you.
Jen, I just wanted to add, you know, that's really, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that is a practice of really getting your mind and your body and your heart in coherence through laughter and shutting down the analytical, you know, mind. And that's just so powerful. And that's really cool. And another one that I wanted to add to, I thought of this a little while ago when we were talking. I think you guys were touching upon both through the meditation and also through the yoga nidra. You know, those states are very powerful, and there's a number of reasons why that state is powerful. What you're really relating to is the theta state, and the theta state is very elusive for us most of the time, because we only cross through it very briefly while we're waking up or as we're falling asleep. When we transition between alpha and delta, or backwards. And there's a lot of power in that state, because not only do we have access to the collective at that point, and I think that this is where these divine experiences that you guys are referring to are coming from, but the other thing that makes it particularly powerful is that is the window of opportunity that we have for communicating with our subconscious mind. And what's cool about the subconscious is that it's not, we tend to think of it as just like the basement of our brain, but it's really not. The subconscious is the collective. And it gives us an opportunity to go in there and reprogram. And that's why, you know, it is a very powerful state for affirmations and really trying to materialize anything that you're working on, is because you do have access to reprogram your neurocircuitry, really.
Wow.
Wow.
So
a tool that I just wanted to share that has been very, very powerful for me over the years, and I continue to use it every single day, is binaural beats. Because accessing the theta state through, I mean, there's a number of different, you know, embodiment practices and also meditation practices that put us in that state. But binaural beats is a very, very easy and very powerful tool that has been tested for decades. And it has the capacity of putting us in those states within about 10 minutes. And all you need to do is just put some headphones on. And as long as they're like tuned into a theta state and you can get your body relaxed enough, it doesn't matter if you're sitting up or laying down, that is a really juicy practice to go in. And especially if you're holding a certain intention or affirmation. So I would highly recommend that. Oh, and also doing it like when we were talking about the yoga nidra, you know, either first thing in the morning or right before bed are actually the best times to do it. Because those are the times of the day where the mind is already naturally going towards theta. It's you know, in the morning it's ramping up, or at night it's ramping down. Those are good times to do those practices. So yeah, 10-minute binaural beat meditation on theta, 10 to 20 minutes is what I like to do. It's very easy, not a big time investment, and super powerful. So I just wanted to add that.
You're muted, my love.
Thank you. Thank you for that great way, Alex. We've talked about some great ways to keep this in our frontal experience. Jen, when you call in the directions, do you like to close them? Is that part of your practice or no? I just wanted to check in with you. I didn't ask before.
They can close their damn selves.
Okay, deal. Well, does anyone else want to say something? And then I'm going to do a little song and bring it to a close, but I want to give anybody a chance for a burning desire. Or any questions? Okay.
I have never heard of binaural beats. I don't know what that is.
Oh, Google it.
Google it?
Yeah, but go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so I'll be really quick. Yeah, Google it. There's a ton of information. I would recommend checking out a lady named Kelly Howe. She's my favorite artist. But it's a very simple brain technology that uses tones. You have to wear stereo headphones for this to work. And basically the way it works is that whenever there's a tone coming in through one of your, through, let's just say the left ear, and there's a tone that is very similar but slightly off coming in through your right ear, it confuses the mind. You don't know, it doesn't know which tone to pick up because they're so close together. And so what ends up happening is it hears a third tone, which is the difference between the two. Does that make sense? And so as long as so that's what's called a binaural beat, the third tone that is not really embedded in the sound, it's actually created by the mind. That tone, as long as it relates to anywhere between 4 and 9 hertz, which is the theta state, it'll put you there. It's like I said, it's been researched for decades, and it takes about 10 minutes for it to it basically balances your brain hemispheres and puts you in that deep meditative state very quickly.
Thank you.
If you have Spotify, she has a bunch of stuff on there that Alex got me turned on to. Actually, it's amazing.
That's interesting because I do think the balancing of the right and left brain hemispheres. One of the things I do is work with the crystal singing bowls, doing some sound healing, and those also coordinate the left and the right brain hemispheres. And that ties into the thing that sort of excites me the most, which is that I think that the human collective consciousness is coming to a time where they balance the right and the left, the male and the female energies. And that's the time of balance we're coming into. So that makes all kinds of sense to me, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So if anybody's interested, I do groups like this, but longer and smaller, so that people get more individual attention with each other. If you're interested, I'll put in either groups or individual work, I'll put my email in the chat. And I want to stop by giving you a song. We are the holy ones. We may have forgotten or come undone. You are my brother. You are my sister. You are my mother. You we may have forgotten or come undone. Now is the time for the human soul to remember the greater story to which we belong. Thank you, beloveds. This was a riot. Thanks for showing up. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. It was great.
You're all so sacred. Remember that?
Yes, thank you. It was great.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And just as a reminder of those, and I put it in the chat on golden-threads.com under teachings, like this recording will be there probably tomorrow afternoon, but all under the teachings, all the different teachers that we've had, the videos are posted under there. They're free. So go in there and look at them. We've got the despacho ceremonies from Peru in there. We've got, anyway, it's really interesting. It
is. Thank you for archiving them.
Yes, yes. It feels important. And that way I don't have to send them out. You can just go to the website. There's also a donate now button on the website. That's real easy. It takes you right to PayPal. So you could donate through PayPal there. So please consider that. Before, I'm going to read a poem to close. This is what I like to do, and it's one of Kim's friends' poems. So I'm going to be reading that. But I want to announce next Tuesday, I'm actually leaving on Thursday, and I'm disconnecting from the internet until Monday, which is going to be interesting, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And so on Tuesday, I'm going to put a link out there to gather, but we won't be a structured gathering with the teacher. So I'll still put it out there that we can gather in circle and have a sharing circle and connection, if nothing else.
Cool.
But the next week on the 14th, I'm going to have Alberto Fernandez, which he's been on here a couple times before, but we're also going to have Victor Quispy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. He's also an Alta Messiah that's with us when we go to Peru. Wow. And I'll have a translator on there. And I'm going to let the Apus guide them in what they're going to teach. But on the 14th, that is going to be our next, where we'll have a speaker. We'll have some structured speaking there around the fire on the 14th. But you'll get emails and I'll be announcing on Facebook, but I just want you to be aware because I'm really excited about this on the 14th. I don't think Victor's ever been on the internet before. So this will be interesting, and he's powerful. He's got some medicine. Again, I so appreciate all of you gathering here, and it's just a real blessing to do this each week. And I hope the ones that have never been will come back and gather with us. And so I'm going to read now the poem, Do You Not Know by Connie Burns. Do you not know when you fell that tree? Do you not know that is me? It is my sheltering arms you hew, my cleansing breath you end, my deep interconnecting roots you sever. When you kneel on the neck of that man, do you not know that is me? It is my breath you cut off, my voice you silence, my heart whose beat you still. When you pour your pollution into the river, do you not know that is me? It is my healing flow you turn to poison, my life-giving waters you turn to death. When you spew your venom at each other, do you not know that is me? It is my eyes you are looking into with hate, my longing for your love you refuse, my need you turn away. When you treat your precious, precious body as if it were profane, Do you not know that is me? It is my eyes you close, my arms you tie, my will you disable. When you close your heart, do you not know that is me? It is my love you close the opening for, my warmth you snuff out, my adoration you silence. When you make up your mind, do you not know it is me? It is my curiosity you shut off, my wonder you refuse, my creativity you deny. When you ignore your spirit, do you not know that is me? It is my voice whose love song you turn away from, my adoration for all that is me you reject. I love you all, and I'm so blessed that we got together tonight in this beautiful circle and listen to Kim's wisdom and share and all the sharing that happened tonight. I feel really blessed. Aho.
Aho, Matakuya.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kim.
Mwah!